I sometimes think that we talk about the possibility of being held in existence, of the immortality, our immortality, as being the result of some ingredient in us that we call the soul. And after this case decays away, the soul goes on ticking along because it's created to be immortal. I personally don't think that's what Christianity is about at all. I think what Christianity is saying is, yes, indeed, we are held in being. We don't die, but the reason we don't die is not because there's something in me that can't die that we call the soul. It's because God is so wildly in love with Michael Himes that God won't face eternity without me. That God loves all God's creatures so totally that God holds those creatures in being. But it's God's active love that holds us in being, not some ingredient in me. It's not that I've got an immortal soul, it's that God's got an immortal love. And that love is directed toward me and you and everything that exists. That is absolutely fundamental to the whole of the Christian tradition. And it leads me vitally to what I want to say to you about sacraments. This is what I like to refer to as the sacramental principle. It's been defined in a number of ways over the course of centuries. This is my handy-dandy definition of the sacramental principle. For purposes of this evening, we'll refer to it as the truth. The sacramental principle holds that what is always and everywhere true must be noticed, accepted, and celebrated somewhere, sometime. That's the sacramental principle. If something is always and everywhere true, if there's something that's always the case, it will be ignored. Think of the things that are always present to us and how easily we ignore them. Think of, for example, your heart beating. You don't pay attention to your heart beating most of the time. It's only if something goes wrong and your heart starts beating irregularly that you may notice it. Otherwise, we just take it for granted. Think about blinking. Since I've started talking, you've all been sitting there blinking. I hope you haven't been counting the blinks, or this has been preternaturally dull. But you don't notice the blinks unless something calls our attention to it. A few years ago, a number of years ago now, I was struck by a bout of Bell's palsy, and everything on the left side of my face froze, including the ability to blink. I had to tape my eyes shut at night, and in the course of the day, I had to remember periodically to reach up and hold the lid down to keep the eyeball moist. By the way, it's a terrible affliction for theologians who, by definition, speak out of both sides of their mouths. It meant that I could only speak out of one. You don't think about blinking until something calls your attention to it. You don't pay any attention to the oxygen in a room until the oxygen gets to be stale. That which is always and everywhere present is easily ignored. If we're going to really attend to something that is always and everywhere present, it needs to be celebrated and noticed somewhere, sometime. Think, for example, of celebrating someone's birthday. The mic just went on. It's a shame because the first part of the talk was the meaning of life and you've all missed it in the second half of the room. Think of celebrating someone's birthday. We say to them on their birthday that we love them, that we care about them, that they mean a great deal to us. That's certainly not because the other 364 days of the year we couldn't care less about them, but on this one day every year we really care about them. The point is, it's because we always care about you that sometime we have to let you know that. We have to tell you it. We have to pay attention to the fact. Well, that's the principle of sacramentality. What is always and everywhere true must be noticed, accepted, and celebrated somewhere, sometime. And you notice what I've suggested to you so far is that that which is always and everywhere true, constantly, what is always present, everywhere present, what we never get away from, is the absolute self-gift of God, is God's love, which means that God's love can easily be overlooked unless somewhere, sometime, we notice it, accept it, and celebrate it. Those occasions that get us to notice, accept, and celebrate the love of God, which is always present in our lives, Any person, place, thing, or event, any sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell that causes you to notice, say yes to, accept, embrace, and celebrate the love of God, that's what we mean by a sacrament. How many sacraments are there, therefore? How many things exist in the universe? Anything and everything can be a sacrament. There are the 7 great communal sacraments, to be sure, but they're only the great communal instances of something much, much more embracing. Everything that we encounter can be a sacrament.